In my opinion, Beastars Season 1 was a great season for me when I first watched it. I absolutely enjoyed the Season 1 as a whole in terms of when the series of Beastars set the stage for the world that we're about to enter. You're pretty much in an academy, and instead of it being humans, it's pretty much animals that resemble humans. Of course, needless to say, you got that human factor brought out of them, the environment, the characters that were being introduced, and even the direction that it was going in terms of lore and story were definitely amazing as well. Because in the first season you start out with this murder, and then you're introduced to a character named Nagoshi who is pretty much going through a self-discovery throughout the whole series, of course. Whilst we're getting other factors added to pretty much this series that makes this world more evolved and put you in more of a question as to why are these things happening in this world. Whilst on top of that, many characters of the series have like their own thing going on. They have their own issue, and I think that's why I like Beastars for the most part, is because it's not really focused on one thing, but it's focused on multiple things in the series. Like for example, you got the relationship between Lewis and Haru, which pretty much collides the relationship between Legoshi and Haru, because when Legoshi finds out that Lewis is with Haru, he starts to get in his feelings and he starts to get angry because he's in love with Haru. Obviously, when I saw that scene, I think he wanted to kill Haru at that point in the first place. I mean, even though he wasn't considered committing a murder that first time around, that second time around, I'm pretty sure he was contemplating on committing a murder at that time.
Oh, I got a hot bitch body.
And then basically you got Juno also going for Beastar as well, trying to represent carnivores better in a way where carnivores aren't all bad to even begin with. Like, there are carnivores that are good. So there's a stigma going on in the series where basically carnivores are bad, and that if any herbivore dares to make friends or develop a relationship with a carnivore, then basically they'll get eaten. Because it's common where a herbivore interacts with a carnivore, right, gets into a relationship, and then the herbivore gets eaten by the carnivore, of course. So it's basically a common thing going on in the first place, which is why the carnivores and the herbivores, that's how it's split in the Beastars series. Carnivores and herbivores are literally at odds with each other, always batting each other's heads, of course. Like, pretty much it's also common to where the herbivores are taking control of the carnivores, manipulating their emotions, and then the carnivores, you know, they give in to their predatory instincts and pretty much start eating the herbivores once they get into a relationship with the herbivore. Not to mention that herbivores in the series are looked down as these fragile beings that really can't do anything to protect themselves other than their own brains, to even in order to live amongst carnivores and things of that nature. So you have that going on, and you see that with Lewis, because Lewis is trying to portray himself as someone strong, obedient, dignity with leadership, when he knows that at any given moment this goes to any herbivore in this series, that they're fragile and a carnivore loses its extent. It's like, what can they do about it? And then there's a flip around where the carnivore has the option to commit murder if they want to, but if they're in control of their animalistic instincts and whatnot, then that's a whole other problem to even begin with. You know, you got the black market where they're selling herbivore meat to the carnivores. I think it's any kind of meat, carnivore and herbivore. Then you basically got gang leaders, and then on top of that you got a bunch of relationship problems, and you also have that romance, as we see between Legoshi and Haru, which was a big thing in season 1, because there was that love that was ever so present. And I actually watched another video that opened my mind to this, where we basically learned that Legoshi is this shy wolf that is pretty much the complete opposite from other normal wolves, to where they're supposed to be confident and dominant, I think it was, and that they show no fear, no sense of anxiety and whatnot, and that they're just all cool and relaxed and whatnot. Like what, the 1990s kids were supposed to put on an act and maintain cool and calmness, but really he's just a shy, quirky wolf that doesn't want any problems with anybody at all whatsoever. That's who Legoshi is. And sometimes, you know, he gets out of control and doesn't know why he gets out of control or why he feels the way that he does, and sometimes he gets disgusted for feeling the way that he does, fighting his predatory instinct that pretty much goes on and off within him in the first place. And when that happens, since he feels disgusted about it, I probably would too. With that being said, he's going through a self-discovery, and this is where Going comes in, to where he is trying to help Legoshi navigate the way that he feels in the first place. And even though at first he comes off as someone who kidnaps others and tortures them in the basement before giving them that therapeutic treatment, no, he's actually trying to help others navigate the way that they feel, and trying to put carnivores alike on the right path, so that way they don't end up in a situation to where they murder her before, because if you murder a herbivore in Beastars, that's basically a crime, so obviously you're gonna go to jail for that. So he's just basically trying to make lives a lot better in this world in the first place. Sometimes you run into a point in your life where basically you don't know why you feel the way that you feel in the first place, and you could end up coming up with all these questions that are left unanswered. You got pretty much that happening, and that's why I relate to the series as a whole. And in the first place, as someone who has watched Beastars, I can relate to having relationship and just feeling emotional problems, to where sometimes I don't even understand why I feel the way that I feel in the first place. I mean, this right here is obviously the second recording, and I think I'm gonna be using this because I remember recording this commentary, and honestly, I just felt angry, and I don't know why I felt. Last but not least, I will say that you also have some political corruption, to where in the background, you know, carnivores are trying to put on a good look for themselves, saying that they're basically all these things where they're trying to serve the people, they're trying to like get people in order, when literally there's some corruption going on in the background, to where, for example, the mayor is working with the Shishigumi, but you got these gang leaders that are going out killing herbivores, or even carnivores for that matter. They're killing them, skinning them, and basically selling their meat as product into the black market, of course. I mean, there's a horrific side I feel like that's going on in Beastars, because when you really think about it, how are the people, the herbivores and the carnivores, getting fed their own food in the first place to even begin with? Like, what's part of the circle of life to even begin with? Needless to say, does that come from the black market, or does that come from another source? And whoever is like in the middle, or even in the higher up or above in the world, you are set and ready to go in life in the first place. Like, you won't experience the things that the herbivores and carnivores on the low end of the spectrum, and I'm talking in finances, to where they make low amounts of money, they're left on, like, you're basically good to go. But if you're poor and if you're not able to support yourself, then you end up getting kidnapped and get eaten alive. Or even if you are in the middle class, and if someone sees you doing well, then you basically get kidnapped. Or, you know, it's like, we gotta hunt these beans some way, shape, or form. How do we keep the black market in stock to even begin with? Well, hunt others, needless to say. You never know. Like, I just feel like there's just something dark that goes on in the background of Beastars to even begin with. How come everyone's getting fed in the first place, and where does that even come from? Of course, to even begin with. Like, I know with the hen situation, first season begs the question that there's something dark going on in the background. Pretty much what the season leaves us with is who killed Tim, because that was never solved at all whatsoever, needless to say. It ends with Legoshi and bonding with Haru and accepting himself for basically who he is, to a point where he's actually able to control his predatorial instinct, which was really good to see it to even begin with, especially heartwarming, you know, because it was literally like watching an addict overcome his addiction to even begin with, needless to say. I feel like, you know, with Legoshi's characters, it hits close to home. I feel like I have a majority of characteristics that Legoshi has to even begin with, considering that I'm not even talkative like this in real life to even begin with. Like I'm just quiet. I just mind my own business and etc. And I just sit down and I just work to even begin with. That's the stage for basically Beastars season 1, and set a load of questions for season 2, which is who killed Tam, the why behind it. Back to the point that I was making when Carnivore get into a relationship with a herbivore. If I'm being honest, that's what happened in season 2. Legoshi trying what's the next steps to pretty much be better in the first place, and to protect the people around, and to pretty much protect the people around him, because he wants to protect the people around him in the first place. Lewis going off the radar. That's how deep the organization goes as a whole. So stay safe, everyone, and I'll see you guys on the next episode of NullFace.